down this trouble, or is this merely coincidence? This is really the question that they were trying to figure out. And so they came up with this idea of using these two cows. It's a very slick idea because they take two cows who have just had calves, and cows who just have calves want to be together. Well, they said, let's hook these two cows up who have never pulled a wagon before and who have calves that are what's the word for that? Mooing for them? Lowing for them? Bleating for them? What? Bawling. That's the word. Who are bawling for them. And if God is behind this, He will direct those cows straight to Israel. But if God isn't behind us, they will act like normal cows would and stay home with their calves. So they put these cows, they put the ark in a wagon, they hooked up these cows, and then they decided we better appease this God too. So they make these golden mice, and they make these golden hemorrhoids. I always wanted to use that in a charades. Playing biblical charades and do the golden hemorrhoids of the Philistines. I don't know how that would work. Never mind. That's on video, isn't it? Kept for posterity. Anyway, now modern scholars who don't believe that the Bible is true or that God is working in the world, now have formulated a theory that says, oh, what the tumors were caused by was rats who had plague, who were rats who were carrying lice, who were carrying plague germs, and it's actually the rats who are having the problem. And that's why you see little rats flying around here. And I don't know, I guess plague rats like to follow cows who have just delivered. That's obviously scientific. But really what they were doing was they were trying to offer God some sacrifice to show that they were sorry for what they had done. Well, these cows head straight for Israel. They don't turn to the left or the right. They ignore their calves, and they keep on going and take the ark back to Beth Shemesh. And then they watched to see what would happen. And they saw these cows just going in a straight line back to Israel. And then they listened as all of the people in this town that the ark had showed up in have this huge, huge party about what's going on and celebration that we've finally got God back in our lives. Well, God is not back in their lives because, yes, they do have the ark, but they do not have a relationship with God. They don't know who God is yet. They've had 400 years of walking with the Lord, but still they misunderstand who this God is that they are serving. The town that the ark goes to is called Beth Shemesh, and it is right there. I had a very fuzzy picture of this, and it's, straight line there on the way to Jerusalem, on the way to Bethlehem, and you can see where it is. This is the town today, and this is about all that's left. Is this, I think they said it was a wine press. Anyway, God is trying to tell these people that He's going to be respected by everyone. You just can't treat me like you would a gold box. I am not that kind of God. I've taught the Philistines a lesson about who I am, and now everyone needs to learn who I am. Well, the people of Beth Shemesh should have known who God was and how He wanted to be treated, because this was a Levitical city. That meant that it was populated by priests and Levites, people who had took care of the ark, people who were given their instructions on how to transport the ark, people who knew God, supposedly. But they disregarded everything that they had ever heard. They knew that only male animals should be sacrificed to the Lord. But they sacrificed these two cows. They knew that they should not look at the ark. They knew that they should have respect for the ark. But they put it on top of a large rock and said, hey, here's the thing. Let's all celebrate. Let's all party. They knew that they shouldn't look into the ark. This doesn't come from Indiana Jones. This comes from the Bible. They knew that they shouldn't look into it. Now, it wasn't that nobody could look in the ark. The high priest looked in there. They put in the tablets. They put in Aaron's rod. They put in manna. They put things in there. But ordinary people were supposed to treat the ark with respect because it represented their relationship with a holy God. But still, these priests decided, let's ignore everything that we've been taught. Let's look into it. Well, they thought, since they had the ark back in their hands, that their lives were under control now. That God was under their control now. And so they could do anything that they wanted because they were in control. But they weren't in control. God was. And God says, because you have treated me disrespectfully, because you do not understand who I am, you don't understand what it means to have a relationship with me, that people are going to die. Now, in most of our Bibles, it says that 70 people died for looking at the ark, for looking in the ark. But there are other old editions of the Bible that written in Hebrew and old texts of the Bible that say 50,000 people died. That's an amazing amount of people. There's not even any way that 50,000 people could live in this town. But I think what God was trying to say is, you thought the Philistines were bad. You know, when they killed you, when 30,000 people died, if you have disrespect for me and the way I want you to live, even more people will die. And so 50,000 people died. They behave just like the Philistines, thinking that they can control God. And then they decide, well, since people are dying, let's get rid of this too. And so they send to Kiriath-Jearim for people to come and take up the ark. But the men of Kiriath-Jearim weren't afraid of God. They knew what God wanted. They knew what kind of respect God wanted from them. And so they came and got the ark, and that it stayed in Kiriath-Jearim for the next 20 years. Now, one of the things that we notice here is that it was not taken back to Shiloh. And I mentioned in the last couple of weeks that Shiloh probably was destroyed in the 7 months that the Philistines had the ark. They were still at war with the Philistines, and they went after, we've got your ark, let's take your town as well. And they probably went and destroyed Shiloh, so this ark is not taken back to Shiloh, it's taken to Kiriath-Jearim. And then, as we go from chapter 7, verse 1 to chapter 7, verse 2, we have a gap of 20 years. They had the ark back, but they still did not have a relationship with God. And they didn't even think about having this relationship with God. They didn't even know they should have a relationship with God. But after 20 years, they come to Samuel and ask him, what do we need to do? For the last 20 years, it says in chapter 6, verse 19, that they had been mourning because of the heavy blow that the Lord had dealt with them. All they were doing was whining about what God had done to them. They weren't doing anything to repair the problem. They were just mad that they had the problem. Now, here in chapter 7, verse 2, they mourned and sought after the Lord. They realized that they had a problem. They realized it was more than just something that was happening to them, that there was a cause and an effect that was going on here. What they needed to have done was have some spiritual cleansing. This is more than rubbing Purell on your hands. This is more than washing your hands with soap. This is even better than bleach. It needed to go all the way to the bone because their sin was all the way to the bone. Samuel tells them, first off, get rid of all the pagan gods and the Ashtoreths that are in your country, that are in our country. I'm not really sure about why he mentions two different groups of foreign gods, but it may be, I think the best answer would be, that some of the people were worshiping totally different religions, and some of them had brought these Ashtoreths into their worship of God. You see, God was a big, powerful male deity, and Ashtoreth was a female deity, and every male deity needs a female deity to hang around with and to tell him what to do. I'm sorry about that, too. My prejudices are really coming out here in this, whatever. And so they may have brought these